pretty serious topic. The four less obvious signs of emotional manipulation or gaslighting that most people miss. Thank you so much for joining us again on Second Act TV. I want to welcome back Joni Caldwell Lerner, the motivational coach, life coach, host of Wake Up with Joni. Joni, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, well, my pleasure of being here. This is my little heart emoji.
Oh, I always love having you here. And today I want you to put on your relationship expert hat. This is a pretty serious topic today. It's one that can make or break a relationship and actually make or break you. And those are the signs, some less obvious signs of emotional manipulation, gaslighting that most people don't recognize because it's common. We might have actually said some of these things ourselves. So let's talk about some of the less obvious ones. I found this really interesting. The first one here is they devalue your worth because they need to feel powerful. Talk to me about that, Joni.
Well, when they devour your worth, well, they do. They devour your worth. When they devalue you, then you feel unempowered and they have control. So for whatever reason, their insecurity, whatever that comes from, they manipulate by making you feel bad about yourself so that they can have power in the relationship because they think that they're not enough, and maybe they don't consciously think it, but they're terrified of being abandoned. So if they can manipulate you and hook you in, keep you, then they'll do it, even if it's soul killing.
They give a good example here, like what you might hear is that, you don't know how to manage your money. If it wasn't for me, you would be broke or stuff like that. If it wasn't for me, again, devaluing who you are or what you can do. It says here, like, a narcissist or an emotional manipulator would be like, I feel powerful and significant when I can blame you and hurt your self-esteem. Those are the unconscious thoughts that roam in the mind, and that, I mean, it is just so dangerous in terms of just losing us up.
If the partner feels fractured or broken in any way or unworthy, then they think, oh gosh, I'm lucky this person is with me. The narcissist doesn't want you to be healthy. They don't want you to be whole. They don't want you to have your own mind. They don't want you to make your own choices, because you would look up and go, yeah, I choose out. This is uncool, not okay. And I'd rather be alone than be devalued this way.
Right. And they basically want you to feel bad about yourself, like you said. And what's interesting or I guess noteworthy, I should say, about this is that you hear this more, if it wasn't for me, if it wasn't for me, like I said, we might have even said something like that. And you can hear that. That's why it's less obvious. I guess what to look for is the trend. If this is a common trend in your conversations with someone you're dating or in a relationship with.
Listen, how do you know? Well, how do you feel? How do you feel when that person's talking to you? If it makes you feel bad, if it makes you feel less than, if it makes you feel wrong, then take a look at this. What are they actually saying? What are they actually doing? What's going on here subconsciously? And why am I reacting this way?
Right.
And what can I do to heal this, to change this?
Yeah, get out. Well, I guess
let's we've talked about this before. Let's talk about the narcissism. You talked about clinical narcissism. Let's say it's a scale,
right?
And so narcissism's over here, like disorder, narcissistic disorder.
Yes.
And then over here is completely selfless. And then everybody's in here sort of somewhere in here, it's selfishness, it's maybe not narcissism. Maybe they're just a little manipulative, and you just go, dude, stop. You hear what you sound like? And if they're not a narcissist, they'll go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. My father always did that to my mother. And so I blah, blah, blah. that's just somebody who needs to learn how to take into account the other person a little bit more.
Yes.
That's not a narcissist.
Right.
So
That great. That is such great. Yeah. Great explanation, Joni. Here's another one. They accuse you, so you'll try harder to please them. Yeah, an example here that they give is you don't care about me and never have. You don't support me. You only think about yourself. They accuse you of
so they're projecting onto you what they're
yes.
doing, number one. And if you have the wherewithal, you say, that's interesting, tell me more about that, as opposed to, no, what can I do to make you happy? That's a fear-based response. Or that's interesting. So can you give me some examples? What are you talking about exactly? What is the purpose of what you're saying? What do you want from this?
I say here, what goes on in their head with this one is that my goal is to make you feel guilty and worry that I have a poor opinion of you. I know that you're going to do everything you can to convince me how much you care, and this makes me feel powerful. Again, they're not saying that out loud, but that's the intention behind it.
Right. So if you have a person who needs approval, who needs outside validation to feel okay, that person's in trouble, because they're going to be easily manipulated. If you have a person who has a very strong sense of self, who doesn't need anything on the outside to tell them they're smart or okay or beautiful or anything like that, they are solid and whole, then that person is not going to be able to manipulate them. So if you're a person who needs approval from the outside, there's some work to do to know that you're perfectly beautiful and wonderful and amazing and handsome and smart and all those things already, but you've got to believe it. You don't need his approval or her approval. Stop that.
Right. Yeah. And this is one that can easily overlook, because think about that, well, if you loved me, you do this, or I mean, I have said that, and I'm not trying to emotionally manipulate, but actually, you know what? It is actually emotional manipulation, even if you say it once.
Now you know better, Silka.
Yeah.
So if you do it now, it's an absolute manipulation.
Yes.
Back then, whenever it was 10 years, 20 years, whatever it was, you learned it at the knee of your parents or at the knee of society in some way. You learned it innocently. You didn't know better.
Right.
And now you look back and go, whoa, I even did that. That's powerful for people, right?
Yeah.
Because they're out there going, ooh, I did that. Don't make yourself wrong. You're not a bad person. Just notice it. And now you know better. So do better.
Right. And if you're on the receiving end of it, again, it's looking for that pattern. Does this happen a lot, to where you're literally drawn into constantly having to build them up and no, I do love you.
That's for them to heal that piece for them, and then they can come to the relationship, and as they change, somehow the relationships change. If it's not a malignant narcissist, that's what I was looking for before. If they're not a malignant, then you can help change the relationship. And if you do everything you can, and they're still doing this stuff, then you can choose to stay or not stay.
Yeah. Here's another one. They assassinate your character to make themselves feel superior. An example: you're lazy, selfish, you're self-absorbed. You're horrible.
Yeah. So listen, that's saying you're a mistake. In some way, you're a mistake. No, I may have been lazy on that day or in this category, and maybe I can do better. That doesn't mean I'm lazy as a being. I'm wrong, I'm bad, I'm broken, right? So again, it's a way of having power over the other person. And the only way they can have the power over the other person is if the person allows them to have the power. That then means they're not a victim, because they can take their power back. I'm a little passionate about this. What do you think?
Yeah, the goal is not to prove my point. This is the narcissist or the emotional manipulator thinking. The goal is to get you spinning. If you're frustrated, tormented, and hysterical with my false allegations and misinformation, the better I feel.
Isn't
horrible.
That sad? It's so sad. That's the person who needs some work, but we don't have control over anyone else but ourselves.
Yeah. So
We
don't let
don't.
anybody put you down and tell you you're something that, again, as you said before, how does this make me feel? And does this go on? Is this a pattern that you're constantly
Yes.
being accused of?
So here, if you don't feel good, it's a great indicator. That's you take your temperature emotionally. If you don't
Mm-hmm.
feel good. Now, between what happens and what that person says and how
Mm-hmm.
you feel, there's something in between here. And that's what you think about it. That's the story
Mm-hmm.
you tell about it. So if he
Mm-hmm.
says or she says blah, 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 and you say, oh, they're right, now you really feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to look at that inside piece, that middle, the thing in between what is said and happens to how you react. And that's what you can change.
What just popped in my head too is how early in the dating process this can actually happen, especially if
Mm,
things don't go right. Somebody gets insecure and it has to blame it on you, or even if you break up with someone, it's like you're horrible.
yeah.
It's definitely something to pay attention to, especially if the relationship does progress.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, the more you work on yourself or the more I mean, some people out there, it's not part of their psyche to work on
Mm-hmm.
themselves. They're,
Right.
older generations that you didn't talk about your feelings or your truth to a therapist or anybody else. So
Mm-hmm.
I want those people to know that it's okay if you do,
Mm-hmm.
and it's okay if you don't, but
Yeah.
do what's right for you. This is one of the reasons I think that people are drawn to your channel.
What's funny, say about the therapist now, one of the trends, we talked about that in another video, really is, if you don't go to a therapist, that there's something wrong with you. So yes, seeking help, seeking therapy is absolutely, it is the right thing to do. It's a good thing to do for you. And we always, encourage that.
Yeah.
Here's the last one. They play the victim to keep you hooked. That here's the example. If you would have shown me any love at all, I would have given you my heart. It's your fault. Yeah.
Listen, it goes back to the only person they can control is themselves. The only experience they can change is their own. So they're not taking responsibility for their lives or their life experience at all. They're blaming you to get
Mhm.
what they want so that they feel better. So now let's flip it back to you, whoever you are. You are not a victim.
Mhm.
Society says we're a victim of this, we're a victim of that, politics, COVID, age,
Right.
all of that stuff. We're a victim. No, 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 no. Everything happens for us, not to us. So if you're in one of those relationships, you get to go, okay, how's this for me? What do I have to look at? Oh, I got to work on my self-esteem. Oh, this is me completing an old relationship. This is that was my dad. That was that dynamic. I can heal this now and then let it go. How is this for me? It's
Mm-hmm.
not happening to me. There are no victims in this world.
Yeah.
I mean, all the victims are out there going, no, I'm a victim. Go ahead, keep on going if that's what you know, if that's comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, this is really, and I've heard this in conversations, not necessarily to the person, but if he only would have done this, if he would have just done this, and I mean, this again, it's something that is less obvious to notice, that this could actually be a big red flag about this person, or something
Yeah.
that you have to address. If he
You know,
only would have done that.
if only
If
victim.
only.
If you're
Yeah.
starting that, no, people wake up. You're basically a sovereign being. You are the king or queen of your own life. And if
Yeah.
you operate from that place, then you're not a victim of anyone. If
Mm-hmm.
only they, that's from outside. One more time. If only they. And you
Yeah.
have no control over the entire planet.
Right.
So you're going to always be wonky and wobbly. But if
Right.
you get that your happiness and your strength and who you are comes from within and whatever spiritual
Mm-hmm.
beliefs you have,
Yeah.
doesn't matter. If you get that, then you can't push me in the wind.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Otherwise, I'm like, woo.
Well, Joni, we're starting to come to the end of the segment. Again, this is so many things to think about here that can either, derail you or not, or, put you on this path, this straight and narrow path. If you just recognize that either, well, if you said stuff like that yourself because you feel insecure, or you're constantly on the receiving end of it. In closing here, what I want to say, and this wasn't in this particular article, but believe me, this is for the best. Just believe me, this is for the best. Let's do this.
I know,
That's
I
a,
know what's good for you.
I know what's good for you. That's another one that I think falls in this category. How would you like to end this? What words of advice do you have on this topic?
Well, it is about what is good for me and the highest good of all. That's what's good. They don't get to tell you what's good for you. So if you're a person who meditates or prays or thinks about or writes about, it's what is in my highest good? Is it to stay in this relationship or not?
Mm-hmm.
Is it to accept this or not? Is it to change this or not? What is in my highest good and the highest good of all, or the highest good of the relationship?
Mm-hmm.
That's a completely different place
Yeah.
than the self-centered, selfish, narcissistic
Yeah.
view, if I may use that word, of me, my, me, mine. And if I
Yeah.
don't get
Well,
me, mine,
but like you said, bottom line, if anybody makes you feel horrible, then that is emotional manipulation. If you're reacting toward what's coming at you, there's somebody's manipulating you, and don't go there. Let's not go
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Joni, thank you so much as always. I
you're
will
welcome.
link to your podcast, Wake Up with Joni. You have such interesting topics on there. Everybody do check it out. And if you want to coach with Joni, so many of you already have. I'll actually put a link to your Calendly. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, you can. I know you offer like a free first consultation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, people may not coach with me, but they may have some questions or they want to just say hi and connect. That's all cool too. So, what that
Yeah,
space has been reserved for your people.
that's
So
wonderful, Joni.
they just need
Thank
to
you.
click on it. Okay.
Thank you. Well, again, thank you for your time. I so appreciate you and all your wisdom. And we'll see you
Oh,
next
yeah.
time on Second Act TV.